Question the young children in the sorrow, why their tears are falling so? So then here she's pushing a finger in your face and saying, are you just thinking that, you know, those kids that always start crying over anything? Yesterday I saw a child just start yelling and say, I broke my leg. And they didn't break their leg. You know what I mean? They over exaggerate. Even Psalms sometimes. They'll scream and scream and cry and they just want attention. So here, do you question the young children in the sorrow, why their tears are falling so? Do you just think they're fake crying or just griping or whining? That's what she's asking. The old man may weep for his tomorrow, which is lost in long ago. The old tree is leafless in the forest. The old year is ending in the frost. The old wound, if stricken, is the sorest. The old hope is hardest to be lost. Does anybody see the parallelism? She talked about the young nature. Now she's talking about the older, what they deal with, what they have to grapple with at the end of life, at the end of the life cycle. Then she says in line 21, but the young children, O my brothers, do you ask them why they stand weeping sore before the bosoms of their mothers in our happy fatherland? They look up with their pale and sunken faces, and their looks are sad to see, for the man's hoary anguish draws and presses down the cheeks of infancy. Your old earth, they say, is very dreary. I want to stop here, even though this is uber awesome. I mean, this right here is just saying there's no hope for them. They're not feeling the hope of tomorrow. And she keeps reiterating, we live in a free country, we live in an awesome country, and these children have no hope for the future. And so this is what she's intimating here over and over. Our young feet, they say, are very weak. Few paces have we taken, yet we are weary. Yet are weary, I think is. Our grave rest is very far to seek. Ask the aged why they weep, and not the children, for the outside earth is cold, and we young ones stand without, outside of where they should be, in our bewildering, and the graves are for the old. That's how it should be, right? That's what she's saying. This is how it should be, but this is not what's happening. Okay, so you can feel free to read the rest of this poem for sure, but go on down to 102 with me, or 101. So this is on the bottom of page 1126, and she says, now tell the poor young children, O my brothers, to look up to him, talking about God, and pray. So the blessed one who blesseth all the others will bless them another day. And they answer. So here she's dealing with people who give pat answers of, well, just pray. It'll change. Just pray. God is there listening. Listen to me right now. This is important. Please don't tune out. Because I think today this is just as applicable as ever. We've got to be careful not to give people pat answers. We'll just look to heaven and pray. And she says, here's their response. They answer, who is God, that he should hear us? While the rushing of the iron wheels is stirred, while we sob aloud, the human creatures near us pass by, hearing not, or answer not a word. This reminds me of the Good Samaritan. Do you guys remember that story? It's in the New Testament of the Bible, the Judeo-Christian Bible, where Jesus tells this story about someone who's been robbed and left for dead, and like the religious people just walk by on the other side of the road and turn their head and they don't help. This really is the Good Samaritan, what she's talking about here. And then this guy who's not even, that the religious people don't even like, he's the one that stops and helps this person. And Jesus says, who truly is their neighbor? Well, it's not the religious people who are supposedly, caring about your souls, etc. It's this nice, considerate guy who stops and cares enough to pick somebody up and take care of their needs and pay for the needs. And Jesus intimates that that's how we're supposed to be. That's why she's got this in here. It's the Samaritan woman. All right, so go back up here where we are. Answer not a word. Don't even say anything about it. They're not really caring. And we hear not, for the wheels in their resounding, strangers speaking at the door. Is it likely God, with angels singing round him, hears our weeping anymore? And this is historically, and we can talk about so many peoples and so many groups that have endured great tragedy, great hardship, and the struggle sometimes with faith, people of faith. I mean, we could say that about American slavery. Why was nothing done for such a long period of time? How could that go on? How could people say that they believed in what they said they believed in? Many, many Christians were slave owners, and they were intolerable slave owners. There were slave owners who were kinder, but the whole concept of slave ownership, think about that. How can you rationalize that? How can you think that's okay? And that's what she's saying. Listen, guys, I'm not trying to be uber controversial here. I just really want you to think about stuff. Why do we tolerate things that shouldn't be? And here's the thing. I said things on purpose because I want you to really think about what things bother you. What shouldn't be happening that is happening. That's just awful. Or as I like to say sometimes, use the adjective god-awful. You know what I mean? It's just awful to the sky, to the limits and back. I mean, it's just awful. I want you to think about that. What pushes your buttons? What do you think is just ridiculous? Like, I can't believe we do this to one another. Well, at this particular time, child labor was a massive issue. And what she's saying is faith wasn't helping. The people who supposedly believed in God and they weren't merciful and they weren't helpful. And just like in other movements, I just mentioned American slavery. We study that, by the way, if you ever take me in American Lit to the Civil War classes that we teach, we talk about American slavery. And one of the problems is, human greed. That's why these kids were working, because they could pay them less and they could use them and abuse them and just the awfulness. They're making money. That's why slavery lasted so long. It was a money thing, much of it, not to mention heart of darkness, etc. But I digress. Okay, that's for you to go on to. Let's look at the bottom of that page on 149. It says, sorry about that. They look up with their pale and sunken faces, and their look is dread to see. For they mind you of their angels in high places, page 1128 at the top, with eyes turned on deity. How long, they say, how long, O cruel nation, will you stand to move the world on a child's heart? Stifle down with a mailed heel its palpitation, and tread onward to your throne amid the mart. Our blood splashes upward, O gold heaper. Here's the stuff about greed. And your purple shows your path. But the child's sob in the silence curses deeper than the strong man in his wrath. Y'all, I know it's Friday. I know people are tired, and I realize spring break is coming up. But this is some good stuff here. And if nothing else, I just hope it makes us think. And not just think, guys, but is there something we should be doing that we're not doing? Is there some way we could help? And with whatever cause it is that we're concerned about? Why do you think it's so easy for people to tune out needs, people's pain? You know, I hear a lot in my classes, and forgive me if I've said this already, but I hear a lot of people say, I'm tired of the drama. And maybe that's a lot of people's response and their excuse for why they don't get involved in matters that they need to get involved in. So it's just too much. There's so much out there. How can my little effort help? How can I do anything? I'm just one person. But Elizabeth wrote one poem really nicely encompassing this problem. And every effort, right, is like that one vote, they say, you know, that one vote you cast is important. And as is every effort. You never know when it's going to spark some kind of truth in people, to the point where the ones who can actually change law, for instance, change the rules as they be, can do something. All we need to do is have that right moment where the right person sees it and it catches their attention. And FYI, there's so many people we can help with donations now, with our volunteering our time, or sometimes, guys, it doesn't even take money, just listening to somebody and encouraging somebody. You know what I mean? Okay, so I don't mean to keep talking. and talking and talking. But I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to read the rest of it and to discuss that in the discussion board. And I'll try to get with you next week before spring break and post another video. Again, be less concerned with on this video of getting it in before Sunday. I don't want you to freak out and have a panic attack or something about this. Just turn it in when you can, okay? Next week sometime, preferably. All right. Enjoy the weekend. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.